Hey, welcome to Watchmen Waiting on the Lord. Today is November 14th, 2023. I'm going to read you, I think I'm just going to read one news story, but I'm going to talk about some other stuff. I'm asking you if you can possibly donate through me, through Cash App or PayPal. I'd really appreciate it. So what is the topic today? What should I talk about first? The Nephilim, super giants, portals appearing in forests, taking multitudes of tourists away, can't find them, UFOs, invisible steroid dogs, or do you want to talk about God? Did that just turn you off what I just said there? Sorry, I'm not a good actor. Any of what I just said, does that bother you? I hear that in a lot of videos, and that's what I mean about peddling the gospel. When you watch some people's things, they open up by saying that you can donate to me through Cash App and PayPal and whatever else, Venmo or whatever it's called. Each to their own, right? But you know, like, I just look at that. How would God look at that? How would Jesus look at you? You know, I see a lot of people. There are a ton of videos out there of people saying, "I went to hell, I went to heaven." You know those. Those are endless. If those people went to hell or heaven, do you think they'd really be asking for money? I went to hell, but God was good enough to let me back here. Can I have some money? Cash App, PayPal. That's just me. Everyone can do what they want. If you are a real ministry and you qualify for a ministry, then sure. But I just don't understand it. And I just don't understand when people, you know, yes, there were Nephilim, but they're spirit now. And then, you know, you're going to say to me, but it says, and after. They were here and after. It says that. But can you show me a single shot of a Nephilim? Can you show me where these portals are and where these UFOs are? And these UFOs that you can show me, there's nothing. There's nothing. You know, you go for a walk, you don't see anything. And we live in a very advanced time. We literally live in Atlantis right now. These are things I believe that completely turns God off. And so I just wanted to say that in the beginning of this. I'm literally having seizure auras right now. I don't get them a lot, but I'm having them in this video. I don't know what it so they are seizures. They're actual seizures. I get them. I've got them since I was 7 years old. I never knew what they were, but I do now. Just a little bit having in this video. Pardon me a second. I have to answer this. Hello?
Hey, Mr. Keller, you're at the Internet Foundation.
Yeah.
I'm on my way. Should be there in about 10 minutes for speech.
Okay, sounds good. I'll see that.
All right.
Okay. Bye. So this is what Christians are doing right now. I'm not sure how this will ever further a spiritual journey with God. And yes, there were Nephilim, but they aren't here now in the flesh, and you can't produce anything. So why waste the time? There are more videos that are nuts compared with what matters. I get it. People love making content, but they don't stop to think that it affects another person's belief system and their own. Why get sidetracked of what doesn't matter? Hey, if we start seeing Nephilim giants, then I guess we should start defending ourselves, right? And it makes a U-turn away from God. And as Paul said, they will turn to fables in 2 Timothy, having itching ears, building up teachers, having itching ears to what they want, to believe. Like, these are, from people who the rest of their theology is good, and you're like, hey man, this guy has good content, but then all of a sudden they're talking about this, and you're like, don't you know you have 500,000 subscribers, and you're leading these people there? I heard it said by a Muslim leader, and he was right, that he was shocked to learn that there are no regulations for our Christian practices. Don't you think there should be? I don't mean oppressive, but regulating. Just look at it now, right? Don't you wish there was? We look like fools in America. I would say mainly the United States. All the prosperity teachers are from there, or originated from there, and spread to places like Africa. Like, Africa's big time like that right now. And it spreads like cancer. They need to regulate unbiblical things like, old Joel Osteen and the prosperity gospel. Speak it into existence. What's it called? Law of attraction. There are predators out there and many false prophets. All you need to do is go on YouTube to find them. I know I'm kind of being jaded, but I don't like seeing these things. The end times are difficult. I don't like peddlers of God's word and magic. If there's magic, let there be magic, but it's funny how we never actually get to see anything. Sleep paralysis demons are real, and I've experienced them 150 to 200 times, I would say, in 3 years. I don't have them anymore. I have one every now and again, but I stopped all the behaviors that were bringing on a lot of it, like lust. So sleep paralysis demons are real, but all those others, they aren't, and they're just deceptions to take you away from the truth. It's like it's like they're adding movies. You know how we're like inundated with so many Marvel movies and all advertisements and stuff talking about this. It's like trying to glorify monsters in the Bible. You get my point? It takes you away from what really matters. This is important. I know the videos I've made about whether to support Israel. This is like about the third time I've talked about this. And I probably won't say anything further than this. To support Israel, I'm not going back on my word of what I said. I've been looking into this because this is my and your salvation. So what I say to you, God's going to hold me responsible for what I'm saying to people who are listening to me right now. I'm not letting anyone take that from me. The first thing, stay away from the main messages coming from the media. And what I mean is the mainstream media. A lot of the media, like, I see it happening with private people who are trying to uncover the truth. There's a lot of untruth in there too. We know all the news stations today lie and are run by the mega rich elites who cover up what they're really doing. It does say in Isaiah and Zechariah that God is coming for his people, but the question is, who are his God left them alone for over 2,500 years. I'm talking about, Babylon. Because they were stupid and they wouldn't listen. They were stiff-necked and obstinate people who were completely disobedient over and over and over and over. That's what the way they were. I want just as much as anyone for the Jews to come to a knowledge of the truth, but the reality is that they are just as bad and godless as anyone here. They're godless. Look at Tel Aviv. When we look at the LGBTQ movements, BLM, all that, that's there too, okay? And what they've said for a long time is the Jews want to be like the West, and it's true. It says that only 2% are believers in Jesus Christ, and when they say that, I don't know if they're talking about born-again Christians. Jesus Christ says remember what Jesus said to Nicodemus. You must be born again to be saved. Therefore, I'll pray for the peace of Jerusalem and God's return to the man of cherries and apples, olives. That's all we can do, right? That's all we can do, because if they're a godless nation, how can we support them? I don't want them to be destroyed. I don't want to see, I don't know if, when they talk about the numbers of how many people have died in Palestine and the bombings and stuff, we don't know that yet. So when you hear those numbers, don't take that for that. Those numbers are coming from Hamas, the deceivers. Remember, Hamas in Hebrew means violence. So they say 3,000 or 4,000 babies, 10,000 dead going up. It could be 2,000. And I heard Mark Driscoll say this, or it was someone else like that, said that Israel actually degraded their number from 1,400 dead by Hamas to 1,200. They're going the opposite way, while Hamas is going the opposite way. Israel's telling the truth, while Hamas is likely overblowing it. You see the rage of the nations right now against Israel. That's what they plan. They give numbers. They listen to it. The way the media is they hear some information and they want to be the first ones to give it. I'm having seizures in this video. Crazy. Literally, and I'm not going to stop either. I have autism, and I had these, and I wasn't diagnosed until I was older, till I was 43, and I was, I felt quite frustrated that no one ever pointed it out in me, because there were many signs, and this was one of them, and I tried to tell people I had these things. So when I get these, I get a seizure aura, and it's like I go into dissociation for just like mere 2 seconds, 2 or 3 seconds, and I get an alien-like feeling, and then a feeling of unfamiliarity, like familiarity and then unfamiliar. That's what's happening to me literally on here. I don't feel overstressed or anything. They just come on sometimes. And it was like a month ago, sorry, not a month ago, about 2 months ago, I started getting them. I had about 50 of those, so it's about 50 aura seizures. And I remember I was having so many, I'm like, oh no, what's gonna happen? And I never had this happen before. All of a sudden, like I was eating a meal, I eat lots of meals, small meals, and I had them, and by the time I got ready to go out for the door, I put my pants on backwards, I went outside, I didn't have stuff in my pocket, and yeah. I don't even know the exact name of the seizures, but I'm on anti-seizure medication anyway, so. So back to Jewish people. They tend, I love Jewish people. If you've met Jewish people in your life, they tend to be animated and passionate. So just take, for instance, Amir Sarfati, or even Ben Shapiro. Just look at them. Just look at the way they are. They're really passionate. And you want them to know. You want them to know. Amir does, but And I hope for them. It says that they will look on them who they pierced and mourn like a newborn child. Pardon me a second. Like what I mean is when I got the seizure, I guess when you have so many in a row, what it does is it scars your brain or something if you have too many of them. And I walked out, I went outside, and I remember I went for walks. I go for a walk a couple times a day. I had to come back in, turn my pants around. I put my pants on like backward. Not backward, but like inside out. I forgot my keys and everything. I went on a walk for about 45 minutes, and I couldn't remember when I came back what I was even thinking. Do you know my Facebook? Sorry. I didn't expect this to happen. Who does, right? Do you know my Facebook, of which I don't use much, except like I use it for important messages because it still is good that way. I got a bunch of warnings all at once about posts, age-old posts. They were warning me about spreading false information, even though they, most of them were at least true. You can't always get everything right when you hear a story, right? Or, And so I was being checked by fact checkers. This is where we are. And there was like a big list. It was like 10 different posts I had done. Let me tell you, I can't wait until evil in our world is annihilated by the war the Lord is going to bring. Do me a favor and listen to John MacArthur's sermon. If you don't like John MacArthur, you'll like this one. He's talking about something that he usually doesn't talk about what it's going to be like about heaven and the way the earth is going to be, like waiting, what he in his 80 years of life or 85 years of life has, what he's come to a knowledge of the truth about, what he can't wait for, what he can't wait to see. What you should listen to this sermon. I'm not even done yet, but it's a good one. I hate evil and I hate evil people. Okay, hate. I say that. I don't hate anything, but I do hate evil people. I hate evil. I want to live in a world with no electronics, deceit, lies, violence, sexual immorality, advertisements, and everything worldly. So when you're born again, you should come to the point, I think. One of the things is you'll look at the world differently. You'll see the beauty of what God has created in things. You'll see life differently, and you won't be worldly. You won't care if you make so much money. You just want to make enough money. You just want what keeps, you want a place to live in, you want food, and I don't belong to this world. You know how many times I wish that we had the Old Testament eye for an eye when we see the evil? Most of us have felt that, I'm sure. At one point, Christians, real ones, outnumbered the bad ones and wouldn't hesitate to act for the good. But those days are far gone and lawlessness is reigning, but not for long. God isn't going to take this for a long time. Why is the U.S. border wide open? Why do they just keep talking about it? Why doesn't the U.S. population rise up? What gives? Do I think it's that easy? Yes, I do. That's what they fear the most, the governments. They fear people rising up. But why aren't they? Because people were programmed that way otherwise to electronics in their couches. Do me a favor, mark below why you think they haven't done anything yet. 10 million people have passed through that border. That's what they think. Illegals. 10 million. There's probably about 2 more million than that. Excuse me a sec. Take a drink of water. gonna have to get my door in a sec. In fact, the whole world is against Israel, but a nation disintegrating can't even bring itself. Wait, what am I saying here? It's to do with the border. So, yeah, the whole world is against Israel, right? And that was very quick. They got up to protest pretty quick. But a nation disintegrating can't even bring itself to have one huge 2 million man protest and stop this stuff. Mark below what you think it is. Why aren't they doing anything? The only thought I have is that this is biblical. It's just biblical, only explained by God. That's 1/4 of the population of Canada. Think about that. 10 million people. That's 1/4 of the population of Canada. And we have a lot of illegals too. My country can't even house everyone. We have a major housing crisis right now, and Trudeau goes and he's talking about bringing in more people. Pardon me, just give me a second here. Sorry for the interruptions. Hey, you want to do me a favor? Sure. Give that to Wayne. Okay. To Wayne. Sure. Can you do that? We'll do. Thanks a lot. You're welcome. Now I gotta wash my hands, guys. I just hit my head. Sorry, I didn't expect this today. This is the antithesis of globalism. I think they're trying to collapse everything and to start it over. We know that, right? We know this because they already told us that they want to reset. I'm just gonna say the virus was planned, in my opinion, and everything after. You know what? In talking about that, I'll say my own dad. He's very hard. Like, he follows the mainstream media, but he's a very smart man. And but you know, he only tries to listen to facts, and obviously there is none there. And he's hard to persuade about things that are happening, and that's one thing I've had to let go of. But even he believes now that, to show you that even he believes this was likely planned out from everything that's followed. I can't wait to see the revenge of the Lord, and yes, I do believe we will see it happen. The born-again Christians will see it happen. But remember that it's His alone. Remember the Bible says, give room to God for revenge. If Jesus told us to fight, we would. I heard the tent city in San Francisco was finally taken down. I wonder why. Could it be that Xi Jinping is going to see President Biden? That's the type of stuff that's happening. I might sound irritated today, but it's the world. Sorry, I wrote this stuff down. I'm not that well, right? God works best in weakness. I'm not that well, like something's happening to my train of thought. When you're born again, everything around you changes. Everything looks brighter, and you see the beauty that God created. I'm almost 45. You know how lucky I feel to have You know how lucky I feel to have missed. You might be in my boat, or you're older than me, to have missed being in Generation Z. I'm Generation X. I'm like right at the end of Generation X, right on the line within like 3 years. Not to say Generation Z can't be saved and born again. because many will. I can't imagine the propaganda. Well, I can, but like actually living right in the middle of it, that these kids are going through as youngsters with forming brains, right? Because they're suggestible. Forced masks and injections. To me, the rich elites with more than, I don't know, I'd say a few $100 million. Those people, I'm not saying all of them, okay, are the equivalent to a narcissist, because the overall goal is the same: control and invention of evil. I'm talking about the people who plan our societies out and all they care about is money. The days of Noah, continually in violence, Hamas, that's what we live in right now. I'm going to read Philippians 3 here. Sorry, I will get to a news story. I'll get to one of them. Brethren, join in following my example, and note those who walk as you have us for a pattern. For many walk, of whom I told you often, and now tell you even weeping, that they are enemies of the cross of Christ, whose end is destruction, whose God is their belly, and whose glory is their shame, who set their mind on earthly things. I think of a narcissist when I read that. For our citizenship is in heaven, from which we eagerly wait for the Savior, the Lord Jesus Christ, who will transform our lowly body, that it may be conformed to his glorious body, according to the working by which he is able even to subdue all things to himself. I don't think I can get to this part, but I will try to say this quickly before I give a news story. I'm going to do it in another video. One of the biggest questions that there is that turns people away from Christ, from God, why were there slaves? Why were people ethnically cleansed? The answer lies in Exodus. I forget which one it is, but I just passed over it the other day, and I also read an article, a good article that explains it. Just so you know, it wasn't about having slaves. It wasn't like that. God didn't want people to suffer, okay? His people. He didn't want them to suffer. Number one, all the people outside of Israel, when their times were fulfilled, God moved them into that land. That means that their time was up. They had become so idolistic, so sexually immoral, that God killed those people. There was no other way. They were so demented in their minds. That's why they were ethnically cleansed. They were cleansed by God, not by people. For a good reason, right? Just like we're hoping not to see the stuff, the evil in this world. But there were poor people. There were people who did certain things. There were hungry people, right? Poor people, hungry people. And you were able to sell yourself into servitude. And you would serve for you'd serve for 6 years, but on the 7th year, you would let your slaves go. Slaves were treated relatively well. It's not like you think. I don't know how to explain the whole thing. I'll have to read Exodus to you. But, you could walk in with your wife. You could be both sold into it, and you both walk out together. So it was to keep people away from hunger, to give them money, and to pay off debts. That was it, to pay off a debt. You did something bad, you could sell yourself to that person, or by their law, God says, you're indebted to them for blah, blah, blah amount of time. So it wasn't like you think it is. It's not like that. That's not the way it was. I think that's very important to tell people. So I'm going to read just one story. And it's not to do with Israel and all those things. I think this is important. I think this should happen everywhere. I haven't read it, but I can only guess. So this is the Associated Press. Pardon me. My stomach is bad right now. I don't think I'm going to turn off the camera just because I feel bad. I'm actually not that bad, it's just I didn't expect these to come on. They've stopped now, but Nepal bans TikTok and says it disrupts social harmony. You don't figure. They should do this just like across the board. Kathmandu, Nepal. Nepal's government decided to ban the popular social media app TikTok on Monday, saying it was disrupting social harmony in the country. The announcement was followed by a cabinet meeting. Foreign Minister Narayan Prakash Saud said the app would be banned immediately. The government has decided to ban TikTok as it was necessary to regulate the use of the social media platform that was disrupting social harmony, goodwill, and flow of indecent materials. There you go. He said to make social media platforms accountable, the government asked the companies to register and open a liaison office in Nepal, pay taxes, and abide by the country's laws and regulations. What the hell? Man, ads on the side. Don't ever click on them. You know, you go into something and there's ads on, don't click on them. I use Bitdefender and to protect my computer, and when I come into these things, if you ever click on them, all of a sudden you see multiple threats. Don't click on them. No matter what you see, don't click on them. These things are geared totally towards me and what I've been looking at. It wasn't clear what triggered the ban or if TikTok had refused to comply with Nepal's requests. The company didn't immediately respond to an email seeking comment. Like, this is eerily similar to what I've been looking at. Like, just, TikTok, owned by China's ByteDance, has faced scrutiny in a number of countries because of concerns that Beijing could use the app to harvest their user data or advance its interests. Don't be fooled, they're using it against you in China, okay? Countries including the United States, and you say, well, look at all these other places giving information. No, they are. They all are. You don't want a country like China to have your stuff. Britain and New Zealand have banned the app. The states, Britain and New Zealand, have banned the app on government phones, despite TikTok repeatedly denied it has ever shared, of course they're right, they're liars, shared data with the Chinese government, and wouldn't do so if asked. Nepal has banned all pornography sites. Oh, good for them, man. In 2018. That's excellent. You want to go look at that stuff, that's up to you, but you'll end up with a mind that you don't want. You want to feel clean, godlike, right? You want to get to that point. You don't want to look at porn. I used to look at porn. I mean, like when I was... I really stopped doing it when I was about 30 years old, when I got really ill with my pain disorders. I think I will read this. I suffered with lusts of all kinds. Kick out Netanyahu before it's too late. I'm not going to read the whole thing, though. U.S. intervention in Israel not to open madhouse door. Fears all-out war plan. The IDF's assessment and statements that lit fires in the United States. A conflict broke out between the Americans and the Israelis over the handling of Netanyahu and his war council in the matter of Hezbollah. The Americans intervened several times, asking the Israelis not to escalate with Hezbollah and keep the agreement so. They're pausing for time, right? They're building up weapons in Lebanon. That's the way I see it. How could it be any other way? And I hear they are. I don't know. I'm not going to give an opinion because war sucks, but whatever happens, happens. U.S. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin expressed concern to his Israeli counterpart Yoav Gallant on Saturday about Israel's role in escalating tensions along the border between Israel and Lebanon. Meanwhile, the U.S. State Department spokesman said Netanyahu has made comments that are different from the vision that Blinken laid out. Hey, you know what? Israel whatever you hear, Israel will die militarily, without America. People don't understand that. They don't know. We give them everything. Both when we were in the region of, and afterwards in Tokyo. Like, we're going to give them 14,000 missiles, okay? Just for the Iron Dome. Some in the Biden administration are concerned that Israel is trying to provoke Hezbollah and create a pretext for a wider war in Lebanon that could drag the U.S. and other countries further into the conflict, says sources familiar with the situation. It's no coincidence that today Israel Foreign Minister Eli Cohen stated in a press briefing that Israel has international legitimacy for another 2 to 3 weeks of fighting in Gaza. Okay, we feel there's international pressure on Israel. It's not strong, but it's getting stronger, he said. It's probably because of all these marches, right? And, excuse me, I'll give you a comparison. The Vietnam War. Who won that war? Militarily, the U.S. did. They were absolutely annihilating them. But it was all the protests. It was all the political. The U.S. could have done whatever they wanted, okay? There were a lot of whores in there and stuff like that, and they were good fighters, the Vietnamese. But it was the media war, okay? They stopped doing what they were doing, and they weren't allowed to use the weapons that they wanted to, obviously, right? We feel that earlier Israeli media reported that the Knesset members and Likud ministers are discussing the possibility of removing Netanyahu through a vote of no confidence. Weren't they doing that already? The reason for the intense intervention of the Americans was the information that was circulating. I wonder what President Xi is going to say, right, about this? Throughout the weekend, I wonder what he's going to say at all. I can't believe they're inviting him to the States after everything they're doing. They're killing their people. They're killing the people in the States. They spy on people. They bring down companies. They're not good people, okay? The Communist Party. Throughout the weekend, in which was preparing the people of Israel for a generalized war with Hezbollah, Israel defense officials say Israel is in perfect position to go to war against Hezbollah. I believe so. The head of the IDF emphasized, for his part, that the army is prepared with operational plans on the Lebanese front, while the Israeli media, such as Channel 13, reported the assessment of the Israeli services that a war in the north against Hezbollah is inevitable. It is, I believe, even if Israel pretty much did nothing. I think this is just in the making. We're intensively preparing for operational plans for the northern front. Our troops on the northern border have been put on high alert. According to Israeli intelligence, the anti-tank incident in Dubov and the shootings that continue today show an increasing escalation in the northern area. I hear they have all new weapons. Hezbollah does, like anti-tank ones that can reach like 8 kilometers. The Kornet anti-tank missile. Despite the high number of Hezbollah casualties so far, the IDF sees a qualitative improvement curve in the targets of the anti-tank units sent by Nasrallah. There it is. This is a continuation of the dangerous escalation on the northern border, and the question is, when will the explosion point be reached? I'm going to stop there. Very difficult to speak right now. Thanks for watching today's video. God bless everyone. And I'll probably do another video reading to you what about the slaves, because that could be one thing that could help turn someone toward God, right? If you tell them and you explain, because you say, why don't you believe in God, right? You say that to someone, and at least 30% of the reason people don't is because they say, well, the slaves and stuff like that. Well, hey, it's I just explained to you why, not fully. But what about all the other nations? Why are they all exempt? So, yeah. And then when it comes to, like slavery in America and stuff, do you know that, like, that's obviously horrible, right? But all you hear about it. There's slavery throughout all of time. And actually, the worst slave trade was at the Ivory Coast. It was Africans taking white people from like Spain and Europe and stuff like that. Go look at it. I forget what it's called. The Ivory Coast. It's like the Barbary trade or something like that. Where it was at least just as big as in America. Anyways, God bless everyone.